Hey everybody, I'm Chris Metzler, one of the programmers here at SF DocFest. As you can see, we're kind of in the kind of hybrid world of film festivals with both in-person screenings of the Roxy and films that you can virtually screen in the comfort of your living room. So you're lucky enough to see the really great film Sentinels, and we're lucky enough to have the co-directors of the film, Derek Knowles and Lawrence LaRue here. Thanks again, guys.
Thank you for having us.
So I think one of the things that people often wonder with documentaries is like, how do filmmakers come up with their subject matter and know that there's a film there? So how did you kind of first hear about this story and know that you wanted to go down this rabbit hole of making a documentary film?
Yeah, I can begin and then Derek can jump in. Well, we both relocated from the Bay Area to here in Portland, Oregon, where we live. And we were well acquainted with logging in Northern California, but saw it on quite a different scale here in Oregon. And we're just kind of wondering if there was anything quite like the era of the timber wars that were happening in terms of any kind of direct action campaigns going on. We looked around a little bit and we found the only active campaign of its type taking place was actually in the town of Trinidad in Northern California, about 100 miles south of the Oregon-California border. So we reached out to them, and through a series of conversations and vetting, they welcomed us to come and visit with them and film.
And you kind of mentioned this idea of vetting. I mean, I think that kind of alludes to the idea of like, the kind of trust building that's involved in making any sort of documentary. So at first, I mean, obviously, getting press about these actions or kind of awareness is always important. But yeah, was there some skepticism in regards to who you all might be and what your intentions were?
Yeah, I think there was, and I think that's fair and understandable when you look at the sort of degree with which stories of civil disobedience, nonviolent direct action, which is what our film portrays, the way in which they're covered or not covered in kind of the mainstream media. I can see people who are disillusioned and sort of fatigued by working through conventional means to stop what seems obviously wrong, especially during a climate crisis. I think are right to be suspicious of journalists, media, filmmakers who come calling when something starts to happen but aren't there, 364 out of 365 days of the year. So that was something that, Lawrence and I really were working to do differently. I think that's the value of longer form storytelling. Yes, this is a short, but you sort of treated it like a longer form film. And that's, again, the value, I think, of independent storytelling as well. We weren't beholden to a brand. We weren't beholden to a network. So when we talked about the things that we wanted to do in the film, that was something that, we were accountable to ourselves and our relationship with the people in our film. So I think that's, there are a lot of sort of tenets of independent documentary filmmaking that I think made this film possible.
And as you kind of, were kind of loud access and telling it, like, would you consider the people in your film kind of like collaborators, or did you kind of take kind of a more observational approach? How did you kind of decide, figure out the story that you wanted to tell? And like, were they involved in kind of letting you know different things that were going on so that you could tell the story, as best as you could?
Well, I can begin on this one and then hand off to Derek. We knew that we wanted the film to be, experiential and very much an observational type of film, and place the audience there in the forest amongst this kind of effort, and to hopefully, encourage some empathy into what they're doing and understanding as well. And Derek, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think, Chris, a big part of the process was long, extended conversations with the people in our film to kind of do a download and an exchange of, what Lawrence and I, the vision that we had. That vision's always malleable, especially in documentary, and influenced by who you're working with and who's allowing you into their worlds. And that definitely happened on this project. At the same time, you know, we knew that what we could do best was not your kind of traditional journalistically driven sort of documentary where we sit people down and do sort of a talking heads treatment. In fact, there were a couple other projects and pieces about this sit that were kind of doing that. So that kind of gave us some freedom, I think, to provide the sort of treatment that you ultimately see in Sentinels, which, to Lawrence's point, is much more immersive, experiential, just trying to put viewers in this tree sit, in this forest, and have them come to their own conclusions. So yeah, that took some time, I think, to kind of convey that vision. You know, and I think, though, again, it speaks to the value of a diversity of different approaches to filmmaking. You know, not every film has to be the same. So I think ultimately we arrived at that point.
No, so I appreciate the time you guys spent telling the story. Were there things that kind of surprised you over the course of the film making the film that you just didn't expect based on your kind of your earlier assumptions, and you know, and also how did it evolve?
Well, I think one of the things that kind of drew us to the story as well as surprised us was that what is typical in these types of direct action campaigns in the past has been that they are either used as like a stalling tactic in tandem with a legal case that's going to protect flora or fauna of some sort. But in this particular instance, there was nothing like that, which made it very profound. That these activists were going to this timber sale and this protecting the last 18 acres of a 100-acre site. And they were going to go ahead and try to outlast the 5-year permit that the timber company has. And that's it. And it was that, just that idea of occupation of that site and living with to their ideals for such an extended period of time that we thought we were drawn to, and we thought it would be worthwhile sharing with you know, with the public at large.
Well, and then you know, when folks kind of leave the theater or finish watching the film at home, like, what do you think? What would you like people to kind of ruminate on, or kind of like take away in regards to the way that they kind of live their life, or things to think about?
Well, I think for me, it's a couple of things. I think, and this was the experience that I had after spending time in that forest and kind of seeing the consequences of some of our, you know, economic and social actions. So I think that's the first thing. It's, you know, we have a society built on industrial logging. It literally built San Francisco. These redwood trees that are being cut down in the film are, you know, I'm not sure if the Roxy was made with that wood, but certainly the place next door was. So this isn't necessarily an indictment of how our society was constructed. I think it's more, though, important to sort of understand the consequences of progress, of the sort of decadent lifestyles that we live. I mean, when you're out in the forest, you kind of realize it's not just something to be harvested. It's much more than that. It supports life in all of its multitudes. And I think we have to start asking more difficult questions about you know, what we're doing to our planet and our environment as that sort of looming climate crisis is becoming, you know, ever more present. So I think that's the first thing that I hope this film sort of provokes. And I think the second thing for me is just getting people to realize the power, their individual power. You know, yes, the activists in our film are only protecting like a small area of the millions of acres that this timber company, Green Diamond, owns. But, you know, those trees are still there because they're there. And I think there's a lot to be learned about what we can do, again, outside of conventional systems, when we have a sort of sense morally, in a way, ethically, spiritually, that something is wrong and something's right. And so to me, I hope people are more aware of their individual power after watching this film.
Well said. Well, thank you again, Derek and Lawrence, for joining us and sharing Sentinels with us at SF Doc Fest.
All right, thanks so much.